tonight. Lows in the mid-30s, a south wind at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Wind gusts tonight around 30 miles an hour. Slight chance of showers in the afternoon Wednesday, partly sunny and breezy. Highs in the mid-40s. South winds at 15 to 20 miles an hour, and Wednesday wind gusts in excess of 35 miles an hour. Cloudy skies Wednesday night. Lows around 35 degrees. New rain in the overnight Wednesday, between a tenth and a quarter of an inch. For your Thanksgiving Day, cloudy. Temperatures dropping into the lower 30s. Northwest winds at 15 to 25 miles an hour. Friday, sunny, highs in the mid-30s. And for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, partly sunny, temperatures in the lower to mid-40s. Across the area here for this morning, mostly clear skies. 29 at the airport in Bloomington, 30 in Hayworth, 27 in Leroy, 29 degrees in Farmer City, 28 in Champaign, 29 in Monticello, 30 in Decatur and Mount Pulaski, also 30 in Lincoln, 33 in Springfield, 27 in Peoria. 29, partly sunny in Clinton. South winds are calm, 75% humidity, and 10 miles of visibility here this morning. Get the latest in local weather at DeWittDailyNews.com.
MR Systems Wireless has an immediate opening. They're looking for a full-time internet installer to perform the initial setup of wireless internet and voice-over IP services, as well as troubleshoot and repair wireless and phone services for customers. You'll be responsible for the basic installation and maintenance of wireless equipment. No experience necessary. Includes health benefits, mileage reimbursed. Starting pay is $15 an hour. Find out more and apply by going to mrsystemswireless.com, then clicking About, then Employment. Equal opportunity employer.
Your local garage door experts. Screaming Eagle Door Company in Clinton can install the new garage door or repair the one you have. Servicing most brands, find out more by clicking their icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
Life is uncertain. Stop in and see me, State Farm Agent Jason France, on the west side of the Clinton Square, or click our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com and see how our full lineup of State Farm insurance and financial services can help protect your family.
Local farm broadcaster Jared White covers the local agriculture news you need to know. Hear his reports by downloading the free WHOW mobile app.
Let's swing open the farm gate together every day on WHOW. I'm Stu Ellis, your host of the long-running agriculture feature called The Farm Gate. I bring the latest news and information on where agriculture is and where it's going to WHOW Ag listeners several times a day. From tariffs to treaties, from the Board of Trade to the running board on your truck, I cover Central Illinois agriculture every day on The Farm Gate. Hear it all on WHOW's many platforms, on the radio or online. Join me, Stu Ellis, for The Farm Gate.
This is The Morning Show on 92.3 FM in DeWitt County, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. In studio with me is Cody Monkman with the Neighborhood Care Center. Good morning, Cody.
Good morning, Seth.
How are you today?
I'm good, man. I got my coffee and I'm ready to roll.
Now, what are you drinking today?
Black coffee from my house.
From your house?
Yeah, I didn't have time to go to Casey's.
You're not a cream and sugar guy or anything like that?
Never.
Really?
Straight black.
See, now you being a black coffee guy, I'm surprised you're not a coffee snob. Like, you've got to have like the really good, beans. Is that what they're called? Beans?
Oh, these were whole bean and they were ground fresh.
Okay.
Oh,
but I mean, I'm just surprised you're okay with Casey's coffee, McDonald's coffee, Mach 1 coffee, wherever you want to get coffee.
If you work at McDonald's or Casey's, that's a positive that I drink your coffee.
Right.
I love it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Introduce us to Pete Cocco.
Yeah, so this is Pete Cocco. He is the president of the board of Neighborhood Care Center, and he's in town today. And I said, hey, Pete, I'd like you to come on the radio with me. I've never brought a board member.
And I've never been on the radio, so this is the first time for me.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Pete. Good to have you, and good to see you again. And let's dive into the board level of the Neighborhood Care Center. And what's the role of the board at its greatest level?
Yeah, I think the role of the board really is to get out of the way. I mean, honestly, we want to provide enough structure for Cody to run on and to give him some good accountability. But at the same time, we just know that day to day, it's going to really be his interaction with what he's eating, drinking, and sleeping each day is going to be really what we have to trust the person more than we have to micromanage the person. So that's sort of the philosophy behind it. But man, we're really excited about the transition that it's taken to become its own 501c3 recently. And I think that allows for all kinds of new things to happen for the care center in the future.
Sure. As you talk about the board and, starting things up with the neighborhood care center, we were talking about this a little bit before we got started, but it doesn't sound like you were, greatly instrumental in the startup of NCC, but have come on along the way.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what you've seen as this effort develops.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cody was part of a campus ministry that I was heading up at Illinois State. And it's always been one of my greatest joys to just follow my alums to where they're at and what they're doing and how they're working. And I really believe that there was some things that Cody was able to do, maybe some cultural things he picked up while he was at Encounter that he was able to implement while he was at Clinton and starting the care center. And then I actually had a chance to really get up close and personal with it about 3 years ago, and was able to volunteer there more, and able to see things up front. And from there, it just kind of ended up taking off. And I feel like I've gotten much more involved since then. And now actually being on the board is a real privilege.
Sure. Cody, talk a little bit about, you mentioned that relationship with Pete back in your college days and some of the things you learned from him and how that's transitioned to what you're doing now at the Neighborhood Care Center.
Yeah. The campus ministry, I really stumbled upon it in college. And, I think some big ideas that I got from that experience was how important it is to not centralize yourself to the organization, and how
what does that mean?
Help people, kind of reach their own potential and help them figure out what the call is on their life. And, I remember there was so much about the campus ministry that we didn't have to go to Pete and ask for permission or, he didn't manage, let's put it that way. He led it, but he didn't manage it. And
maybe I'll jump in on that and just say that I think the greatest things that have ever been done have always been the things that have been shared by the people and not by just a few. So the more we can empower everyone to do something, I think it's the most beautiful kind of organizations in the world. And what I really love about the care center now too is that it's not just serving people, but it's serving people with the intent of having them become servants as well.
And that doesn't feel like, and I've heard that talked about from maybe perhaps a gentleman you guys know, Dr. Robert Schoaf at Little Galilee has talked to me about this a lot, how he tries to do that, empowering people, like Cody says, to reach their full potential. And so that I listen to that and I think that is that it feels like that's something you just can't teach, like you almost have to exemplify it and hope people follow along. Does that make sense?
That's right. It's absolutely something that has to be caught, not taught. Yeah. It doesn't hurt to teach it, but it's for sure something that has to be caught.
How were you able to latch onto that and grow that skill?
Model it. Bring people alongside you and you model it, and then you invite them to be a part of the decision-making process, the leadership process, from the smallest things to the biggest things. And I think that's where we kind of get around the Neighborhood Care Center network for Clinton and Hayworth. We get to this culture of more of a bottom up versus a top down. Example, this morning, the delivery teams probably got started around 7 a.m. I don't even know when they got started. I don't even know where they're at right now. I used to, because I used to drive the van. But just those types of elements, that's what comes.
You've empowered them to a point that they don't need you.
Yeah. And the Clinton network here, between all of our services, we have about 15 for the Clinton Care Center network. There's about a staff of 150. And when I say staff, I mean a volunteer staff. I'm the only paid staff.
Right.
And so that bottom up culture, I would accredit a lot of that to just that fruit.
Sure. Again, our guest in studio, Cody Monkman, is the executive director of the Neighborhood Care Center. Pete Cocco is the board president of the Neighborhood Care Center. Pete, what does it look like for the board to provide guidance and accountability for Cody and the efforts that he's doing?
Yeah, he's an easy one to actually work with, because actually he contacts us more than we contact him, and he's eager to have accountability. He's eager to ask questions. He's eager to make sure that what we're doing is on the up and up. But what I think is probably one of the most beneficial things that he's done is he's picked a board that not only is competent, but we're friends, and we actually get to have a relationship with him. And I believe that, that's just a very powerful combination to just have those two things going forward.
Yeah. And I guess in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, yeah, that's great. And it's, good for camaraderie and working together and all of those things. But at the same time, I could see like a negative side to that. Maybe somebody take advantage of that type of an atmosphere. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to suggest you guys would. I'm just saying.
I'm feeling that. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I don't mean to vibe it. Sorry about that.
I'm just kidding.
How about that aspect, Pete?
Yeah, I think the part of that too is Cody did a really good job of picking people, I think, that have that good balance. The people that really are a high character, and it isn't just friends that is probably the top priority or the top characteristic, but it's character as well as competence.
Sure.
And there is a character that is deep rooted in each of the other board members we have as well.
So what is the as you right now focus on the expansion of the Neighborhood Care Center, where does the board play a role in all of that?
Yeah, really more of a sounding board.
Okay.
And Cody does a lot of the research on his own, comes to us. He actually has a lot more of the answers. We just have a lot of questions. And the more questions we ask, I think it ends up kind of steering itself so far into a very natural progression of just saying, okay, it just seems like our next place is going to be Hayworth, for example, which is where we are now.
Right.
And as that goes forward, I don't know if we'll have a more thorough process, but at least right now it's lots of questions, lots of research, and do we all have a gut feeling that's in the same direction?
Right. And so, Pete, when you talk about just the guidance that the board provides, how much reliance is there on what Cody has to say versus, you talk about that gut feeling versus what the board thinks. How about and the give and take with those two things?
Yeah. As of now, we have done an awful lot to follow up on what Cody has already brought to us. It's not just trusting him implicitly.
Right. Sure.
He brings us stats and things, but I think the other huge element that we have, or component that we have really wanted to see present before we actually expand is there something in that town, a person, a relationship in that town that is well received. That could be a partner. That could be that potential long-term partner, not just somebody to get started, but who's going to be an advocate for this new startup in that place. Because what we've really, I think, understood from the get-go is that every new place, even if the same needs are there, is going to have a very different outcome or very different look to that particular organization. I mean, every place is different. So we have to have feet on the ground and people to relate to there that really know the town better than we do.
It's so funny. That's a lot of verbiage of what Cody has talked about with me in the past. Is that just something that's kind of understood in this process? Who kind of leads that understanding? Does that make sense? I don't know if that made any sense at all.
I don't know.
It's probably language that's coming out of the culture for sure.
Yeah.
Of the focus is, you're probably hearing out of our language a value that the most valuable thing that makes up a community is community members. And so it's finding those right community members that are like-minded and getting them on the right seats of the bus and really building that relational network.
Right. Gotcha.
So you're probably hearing as we speak, we have a high value on the community members themselves. And believing that they have gifts and things to bring to the table.
Sure. What is the board's role in helping create that culture, or is it just all up to Cody at that level?
Well, I think it's modeled. I think it's modeled from the bottom up. Or we are people. I don't know. It's mostly Cody. I'd say it's probably mostly Cody.
Okay, I was just curious.
I'm the middle guy, probably. I think organizationally, it's important when you're talking culture. It probably is important that it's modeled at the top. But it thrives at the bottom.
How about finances from a board level? What do you focus on there?
Well, we know Cody knows I'm probably the most least finance oriented person on the board, but that's part of the selection process. We have 2 other board members that are much more savvy with numbers. I think I provide a little bit more of a vision aspect to it. But that's where, we can't all be the same, right? We want to have a balance of gifts on that board that are going to help make it a full, make it a full team.
I remember a series of sermons you did at FCC before COVID about recognizing your gifts, and maybe you've got a strength. Your greatest strength is one of these gifts, but you've also got maybe 2 or 3 others that you feel like you're strong at. Is that something you feel like you've brought to the neighborhood care center?
Yeah, I think a little bit.
Yeah,
I think a little bit. Cody and I talk about those gifts all the time. And it's pretty. I think it's just really helpful to know. Not just what you are, but to know what you're not. Because when you recognize what you're not, you're going to actually look for people to bring that gift to the table.
Interesting.
So, for instance, with me and my detail-oriented lack of details and lack of finances, it's really helpful for me to not just gravitate to other dreamers and we just have a bunch of people in a room dreaming. That's what I would naturally want to do.
Right.
But knowing that I don't have the gift of finances or details or that kind of thing, and knowing how important it is, now I get to lean into those people and appreciate them more.
I see. Gotcha. Cody, anything you want to add that we haven't touched on here in this first segment?
In regards to these giftings, Pete and I are very similar. So that also might be why you are picking up on the same language type of talk.
That's really true.
Gotcha.
Neither one of us are actually numbers people. Now, I have to be because of my job. But
right. Sure. Pete, anything I missed you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so.
Cool.
I don't think so. It's really a pleasure to be seeing you again. And to just be here. It's really
fun.
Great. Yeah.
Where do folks go to learn about the Neighborhood Care Center, Cody?
The website is neighborhoodcarecenter.net. And you can call us at 217-935-6844.
Pete Cocco and Cody Monkman with the Neighborhood Care Center, our guests in studio. A lot more with them on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Tuesday. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network. Corn, beans, and wheat all opening the day lower. December corn 5.74 3/4 down 2 pennies. March corn down 2.5, 5.81 3/4. December 22 corn 5.56 1/2 down 2 1/4. January beans 12.68 1/4 down 6. March beans 12.79 1/2 down 6 3/4. November 22 beans starting the day 12.49 1/2. Down 6 1/2. December wheat 8.42 1/4 down 3 1/2. March wheat down 3 3/4, 8.53 3/4. July wheat 8.44 3/4 down 4. December bean meal 3.69 even down $1. And December bean oil 58.80 down 61 cents. That is a look at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Tuesday morning. I'm Jim Taylor for the RFD Radio Network.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Baum Motor Company in Farmer City, our job is to help you and solve your transportation needs. This is Scott Baum. Both in Clinton or Farmer City, we'll listen and find options for a different vehicle, or we'll give you repair options to keep that car, truck, or SUV safe and trouble-free so you can continue with your busy schedule. If it has to do with transportation, we're here to help. Visit our full-service team today in Clinton or Farmer City. Baum Chevrolet Buick, right from the start.
Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson tells us live cashiers are important. Here's Dave with more.
The cashier actually doing the cashiering is pretty darn important, and the customers respond to that. We've gotten a tremendous response to our campaign reminding people that we have live cashiers.
You get live cashiers every time you save up to 40% off on your grocery bill at your Clinton Save-A-Lot. And as Dave always says,
and we hope to see you soon.
You're listening to The Morning Show, streamed by clicking the WHOW live icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. And again, in studio with us is Executive Director of the Neighborhood Care Center, Cody Monkman, and Board President Pete Cocco. And we were having an interesting conversation off the air about, Pete, the size of the board. And I was surprised to hear that it's a 3-member board.
Yeah.
That I don't think I've ever heard of a board intentionally that small. So what's the purpose behind that?
Yeah, I think kind of our point we were talking about before is like we just want the right people, the right people on the bus. And I think it's much more important to start small and simple and to grow into what we know we don't have. And since this is the care center's been around a while and it does have a lot of moving parts, but it's still relatively young.
Okay.
And as it develops into something that's going to, I think, become more complicated in years to come, right now, we don't know what we don't know, and what kind of additions do we need to the board? It's a lot easier to add than it is to subtract. I think we all know that. It's like, well, this person's dead weight. We don't really want to keep them here or keep them around. So we wanted to start small so that we could grow intentionally.
Yeah. And speak to the component of trust. That was kind of a theme of what we were talking about off the air. The component of trust in all of this.
Cody was mentioned that, there's trust, distrust seems to be everywhere in our culture. And I for one believe that it has to do a lot with the fact that we, in a lot of our organizations, are leaning heavily on policies, and we're leaning heavily on bylaws. We're leaning heavily on written things. We're leaning heavily on lawyers, and there's just not a lot of relationship. And
which they have their place.
They do have their place.
They are needed.
Absolutely. But if we lean on that wholeheartedly, we end up losing the relational component. And one thing that I think was a real big core value of mine when I was in campus ministry was I want to have the least number of policies, and I wanted to encourage more messy conversations. And so there have been times, where Cody's called and I've called, and we've had to have difficult conversations to move this thing forward. And I think we get a lot more traction that way.
Sure. Gotcha. Cody, anything from that perspective you want to weigh in on?
Well, I would say this. So I am very proud, and it's enjoyable to work with a nonprofit that has a fairly healthy culture, and our mission is to connect small town neighbors to a relational network that supports and inspires them to reach their God-given potential. And so whether it's a mission partner, a volunteer, or a neighbor that is engaging with the Care Center network for whatever reason, if the mission is to help everyone involved to be supported and inspired to reach their full potential, once you find the right people, put them on the right seats of the bus, why would you not trust them? So,
you selected them. Why would you all of a sudden not trust them? So,
but I think there's an element of it. We also embrace the idea of messy. Like, when in order for someone to reach their God-given potential, there's going to be trial and error as well. So that there's an element of grace that is added when you're trying to develop a culture of trust. But yeah, I think when you have the right people on the right seats of the bus, or even people just heading in the right direction, trying to reach their great potential, why would you not trust them?
Sure.
And there's this biblical word called discipleship that I think is it's just lost. And in my opinion, the greatest component to discipleship is life on life.
What does that mean?
And that would just mean that I've got 2 or 3 people that I pull close. And Cody does such a good job of that modeling wise. That's what we mentioned before. How do people know what to do this morning without him being there? Well, he modeled it for them for 6 months, and now they know what they're doing. That, in my opinion, is a version of discipling or teaching by showing and sharing and doing. Watch what I do, see what I do. Now you get to do it.
Yeah.
And if we can do that in a small context of a board, and then I know that Cody does that with some of his leadership there at the care center, right down to any neighbor that comes in off the street, we have something called hosts that where they're kneecap to kneecap with a handful of people, hearing their story, what's going on with their life, even if they want to offer prayer. A lot of people take that option too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a life on life. Let's do this together. And I think when you got that kind of a network, it's super strong, and it's trust building.
Sure. Pete, how do you envision the neighborhood care center's impact on the community?
Oh, well, like I said,
sorry, I've only got 30 seconds for you to answer that, which is
I think it's just been instrumental. I have seen examples of 2 or 3 generations down of people hearing and receiving blessing from that care center and then giving back. So it filters throughout the whole town.
Cody, tell us how folks learn more about the neighborhood care center.
Our website's neighborhoodcarecenter.net, and our phone number is 217-935-6844.
Cody Monkman is the executive director of the Neighborhood Care Center. Pete Cocco is the board president of the Neighborhood Care Center. Our guest in studio. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM, W222 BG Clinton, 106.5